It's me, Jose again. So, like I promised, here's the original post I made about my experience before I moved to LA. Just know that at the time I figured that if I made the post a little more artsy and entertaining, put that creative writing course to some use for once, maybe more people would read it than if I sounded like just some crazy guy trying to freak people out on the internet. Well, seeing as it just got copied and pasted around a bunch of horror fiction forums, maybe I should have just gone with the crazy option. Anyway, just keep that in mind and be nice. And for the sake of time, I took some of the stuff about me that you guys already know from my Cerber related exploits. Bike messenger, track bikes, no brakes, New York, you get the idea. The mist and rain was beginning to blur my vision, a condition made worse by the darkness which only yielded slightly to my headlamp and the occasional streetlight. But that wasn't the worst of my problems. The sound of my painful, labored breath and the metallic whir of the chain against my aluminum ring weren't the only noises that permeated through the night. They had been following me for almost 2 miles at this point. I still hadn't managed to get a good look at one as they were briefly illuminated by the glow of the streetlight as they darted from behind trash cans and bushes and poles or anything they could hide behind as they chased after me. I could only make out a vaguely insect shape. I could hear the clicking of their sharp appendages as they contacted the pavement. It's dark, it's raining, the roads are wet, I can barely see. I'm on a bicycle that doesn't coast with no brakes. I'm exhausted from the long day at work. Oh, and I'm being hunted by some kind of giant bugs. I pedal and pedal as I try to squint the water out of my eyes, too afraid to take one hand off the bars and wipe my face. I come up on another hill. I lean down and squeeze tight. I lift off my saddle and ready myself for the sprint. Horrified that if I lose the smallest amount of speed or momentum, the creatures will take the opportunity and be on me in a heartbeat. The second I reach the base of the hill, sounds of my pursuers still loud in my ear. I leaned forward and mashed down with every ounce of strength I had. I felt the frame flex and recoil under the stress. My straps clacked as I pulled as hard as I could, my handlebars twisting and bending as I fought them for the leverage against the dents of the bike as I cranked the pedals for dear life. Just a few more yards to the top, just a few more yards. I heard the first noise as I passed through a suburban neighborhood that rested on the fringe of the city. One I frequently traveled as one of the several routes I take home to mix things up. A random clang from a steel garbage bin, a dog or a cat. It must have been. But then I had another thought. It wasn't uncommon to have to dodge the occasional unsupervised ankle biter of a dog to keep from turning into a furry speed bump or endure their frantic barking from behind the fence during my commute, which brought to mind a news report earlier that morning. Local pets were going missing constantly in the past few days, and wildlife, like squirrels and birds and raccoon and such, were coming scarce too. It was mid-fall, so the night was starting to set in a lot earlier, and more suddenly, another noise. This time a rustle from behind the bush next to me on the side of the road. As I turned to examine the culprit, something struck me in the head from behind, hard. My head snapped forward, causing me to nearly lose balance and fall. I only saw a blur as whatever struck me darted into the bushes. Frightened but still dazed, I quickened my pace. Now the noises began to pick up. The further I rode, the more sources of noise there seemed to be, as if more would notice me and join in the pursuit as I fled. The light began to fade as the street lights began to switch on. I spared only a second to flip my headlamp on in the failing light. I would need it before long once the street lights became more and more sparse. Not long after, the mist began to fall. 10 more yards. 5 more yards. I clear the top of the hill, but it brings little relief. The descent will be even more perilous. No brakes on a wet road, riding for my life at top speed in the dark with water in my eyes isn't the safest way to go down a hill on a bike. But I don't have time to be upset about it. The second I reach the top, I'm already bombing down the dark road as fast as I can. The noises from behind me signal that I've managed to gain a little distance at this point, but I'm beginning to near the bottom and there's a turn directly at the base. In dry conditions, it's not much of a problem, but under these circumstances, this could be the end of me. Rising off the saddle, I look up the rear wheel as the soft hum of the tire sliding across the asphalt sounds through the air. I can feel the bike begin to slow, but I already know it's not going to be enough. I pulled my right foot out of the strap and jammed the wheel, bringing my weight back down on the seat to get as much friction against the road as possible. The bike responds and slows just enough for me to take the corner and not wipe out completely. The crank's still spinning. I struggle to replace my foot. It's causing me to lose momentum and I can hear the things close the distance again. Finally, I feel the strap lock into place and I bear my foot down as hard as I can on the pedals, trying to make up for the last time. Against everything my gut tells me, I look back. One of them's come out from hiding into the middle of the street and bolted straight for me. As he gets closer, I can make them out clearly for the first time. I can only describe them as something between a spider and an ant. They were a pale brown or grayish tan and had a large round thorax, almost like one of those cave ticks, but gigantic. Spines jutting out of their long appendages, and I could clearly make out huge mandibles on their heads directly under the 6 set of black, soulless eyes. Frantic, I reach for the chain around my waist I used to lock up my bike. I just manage to free the lock as the creature catches up. As it nears my side, I swing the chain and bring the heavy master lock down onto it. It emits a shriek of pain and flips end over end into the road. I decide to take another look back. I wish I hadn't. I witness a torrent of monstrous arthropods bolt from the edge of the road from every direction, descending on the wounded comrade. I hear mock cries of agony as it gets torn apart by its own kind in the darkness behind me. Wincing, I throw the chain around my neck and continue running for my life. Not all of them stopped. I could still hear them advancing towards me in the shadows. I felt a hot sensation run down my back as blood from the thing oozed off the lock and soaked through my clothes over the dampness of the rain. They started to become more brazen, leaping at me time and time again in an attempt to knock me from my only means of salvation. The last mile went on this way, having to weave precariously to avoid them dashing out in front of me, or ducking low to avoid them crashing into my face. But then, finally, I could see light up ahead as I approached the intersection close to my apartment. The back road I was on isn't a busy one, but the traffic and lights on that intersection should be enough to dissuade them. It wasn't much, but I was burning out fast, and this was my only hope. I just had to get the light and traffic before they got to me. I dug down deep and pressed forward with everything I had. My legs were long gone numb from exhaustion and adrenaline, but my lungs burned with a searing, unrelenting agony as each breath felt like drowning in sand and broken glass. I gasped and screamed as I tore down that road into the bright intersection. I heard the blare of a car horn as the vehicle narrowly missed me as I charged through the red light at full speed. But it didn't drown out the sound of the impact from the following van hitting one of the insects at 40 miles per hour. Not stopping to look back, I charged on, not slowing down until I reached the front of my apartment complex. I fell to the ground as I jumped from my saddle onto the legs with absolutely no strength left in them. But even still, I managed to push myself off the cold, wet pavement of the parking lot and hastily crawl through the front entrance, leaving about $3,000 worth of bicycle laying around on the dark asphalt as I did. Once I made it through the door, I slammed it shut and dropped flat to the tile floor, struggling for air. One of the tenants in the nearby room heard the commotion and came out to investigate, finding what she had believed to be a dying man in the hallway. It took some time before I could breathe well enough to speak again, and then even more time to convince her that I was just exhausted from overdoing my exercise, and that I just needed her to help me to my room once I was able to stand. It's the middle of the day now, as bright as it's going to get. Luckily, I was able to retrieve my bike before it got up and walked off. So once I'm done typing this and posting it, I'm taking my bike and small bag I packed, heading to the bus station and moving to the other side of the country, as far away from those things as I can get. I don't know what you might be expecting me to say as far as advice if you encountered these things, because I only just managed to get away by sheer luck and nothing else. Just run, I guess. Or maybe run them over if you're in a substantial vehicle if you can. But other than that, I don't really know what to tell you other than there's a bunch of vicious, predatory insects out there the size of a Rottweiler. And if you find yourself face to face with them on foot, well, tough luck, I guess. Because that's probably it for you, pal. But you probably wouldn't get the chance to see one face to face. Because I'm looking at my helmet right now, and as I type this, There's a deep gash running across the back of it where the first one hit me, almost all the way through. If I hadn't been wearing it, that thing probably would have cut my head clean in half before I ever knew it was there. At least it'll be quick, I guess. So that's how it all went down. I still have no clue why they were there or where they came from. Every person familiar with the stuff and every paranormal being I've come to know since, some that have been around since before human civilization, basically told me they've never heard of anything like them before. It's like they just came out of nowhere and suddenly disappeared before anyone else saw them. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys out there has some information. If you do, then let me know, I guess. Anyway, that's that. Next time you hear from me, it'll be back to business as usual.